Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Amita Rari, and coming up in today's newscast, thousands protest new Israeli government's policies on the streets of Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, Jerusalem increases pressures on Palestinian terror following Ramallah's anti-Israel bid at the United Nations. And later, ahead of the funeral of ex-Pope Benedict, ILTV on a one-on-one interview with the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. Thousands of Israelis demonstrating over the weekend following what many see as an end to checks and balances in Israel's government. Aaron Porras reporting.
So we came here to protest against the degradation of the Israeli democracy. We see a process where the rights of the people will be over time consumed by this theocratic government, and we want to avoid that.
Thousands of Israelis taking to the streets of Tel Aviv over the weekend to protest against newly proposed legal changes that critics argue are dangerous, corrupt, and far too far-reaching. Some 10,000 people arriving to Habima Square on Saturday after Justice Minister Yariv Levin unveiled his plans, which organizers of the demonstration say amount to a coup d'etat, which threatens to harm all citizens.
We accept fully the elections that took place a few weeks ago, but then what happens with the new government is that they really create a major and significant danger to Israel's existence and democracy. With the extremists that are there in the government, we see with all the intentions of putting forward legislation that will ruin the judicial system, we are going to soon to be like Hungary, Turkey, or other countries that are dictatorial.
Similarly, revered former Supreme Court President Aaron Barak pleading with Levin to reconsider, saying the changes will give the Prime Minister ultimate power and will leave citizens without recourse to defend their rights. Barak claiming that the proposals are a string of poison pills that would mark the end of the modern state of Israel, adding that he'd be prepared to go before a firing squad if it meant preventing this drastic shakeup. Levin, on the other hand, claiming that Barak doesn't understand democracy and that the High Court must be reduced in scope following what he says has been an outrageous abuse of authority in striking down laws. Among the controversial reforms, Levin's proposals would strictly limit the High Court of Justice's authority to block legislation and government decisions deemed as discriminatory or undemocratic. It would also politicize the courts by giving the ruling government control over judicial selection, as well as nixing legal advisors appointed by the Attorney General's office.
The High Court is still out on whether Aryeh Deri can serve in the Israeli cabinet. Following Thursday's dramatic hearing, the 11 justices' verdict could have major ramifications for the governing coalition. ILTV's Steve Leibovich reports.
It's unclear how long it will take for the High Court of Justice to announce whether Aryeh Deri can serve as cabinet minister. The justices are considering the arguments following a highly charged 6-hour hearing on Thursday. Deri is Shas leader, deputy prime minister, interior and health minister, and is a central figure in the new Netanyahu-led government. The judges questioned the legitimacy of Deri's February 2022 plea bargain on tax fraud charges when he agreed to quit the Knesset, only to return 9 months later in November elections and following a strong Shas showing to top cabinet appointments. Judges also expressed skepticism about political and legal moves in the Knesset to change the basic law to allow Deri to serve despite the recent criminal conviction. Deri's attorneys argued that the Shas leader never committed to permanently retire from public life. Attorneys for Prime Minister Netanyahu claimed that the High Court has no authority to review basic laws. Shas supporters said that Deri in the cabinet was the will of the people.
וגם על ידי הכנסת וגם על ידי ראש הממשלה הושבעה הממשלה והושבעו השרים, ולכן אני חושב שהיום הזה הוא מיותר לכולנו.
Yariv Levin's new judicial reform did not pass without harsh criticism over the weekend. And here with us to speak about the latest legal discussion is Faculty of Law and former Dean of Law at Haifa University, Professor Gad Barzilai. So Gad, the proposals for judicial reform of Justice Minister Levin are far-reaching. Former heads of the High Court, including Aaron Barak and Eliakim Rubinstein, are warning that the proposed changes are dangerous to the courts and indeed to Israeli democracy. What's your view on this?
Well, I think that every legal system does require to be changed or altered. Notwithstanding, I do agree that the reform proposed by Justice Minister Levin does endanger a few fundamentals or crucial fundamentals of any given democracy, especially three proposals which were addressed by the Minister of Justice. Firstly, to politicize judicial nominations, which is very dangerous for judicial independence. Secondly, to nominate personal legal advisor instead of the State Attorney General, which is again very problematic. And thirdly, what we call in constitutional law, override stipulation, which does mean that the Knesset may overcome any court ruling quite easily by garnering a majority, a simple majority of 61 members of Knesset.
Now, Benny Gantz is calling for an inter-party forum to consider legal reform so that it has wide public support. In the past, Benjamin Netanyahu said that he supported the approach. Would that not be useful? It seems that the opposition has no input.
Well, it might be useful, but actually I am very pessimistic whether the governing coalition would agree to such a venue. The counter-argument by the Minister of Justice might be that everything might be deliberated upon within the Parliamentarian Committee of Law and Justice. I would say that it seems to me that we are talking about a sort of a intellectual arms wrestling, and my only hope is that the Minister of Justice will consult with people from with a different view, like the views that I've expressed now, namely that any legal setting may enjoy a reform, an alteration, but not in such a drastic way as was offered by the Minister of Justice. Whether the politician would agree with Benny Gantz's offer, I would be very doubtful about it.
Now, Gad, 2/3 of the country, including 45% of the new government's voters, are against Deri's appointment, and the High Court is still deliberating. What are the legal and political ramifications for the coalition and the court if Deri is not allowed to serve? The High Court is out of the decision to see Deri.
Well, if Deri is not allowed to serve, first of all, it would certainly would have ramifications and trajectories. It would enhance the attempts to curtail the judiciary, which I see as a very severe move. Secondly, it certainly would create a sort of a governmental crisis. However, I don't expect the government to fall or to break down because of the court ruling over Deri. Last and not least, and certainly one of the most severe repercussions might be that the government, through the Knesset, would legislate a law that may overcome the court ruling. So however you look into it, we are facing a constitutional crisis. I don't expect the downfall of the government, but I do expect a constitutional crisis around two issues. Firstly, judicial independence, and secondly, what the government may do facing a negative court ruling about Deri serving as the Minister of Interior and Minister of Health.
Professor Gad Barzilai, thank you so much for joining us.
You are very welcome.